Just because I murdered my brand new baby daughter by literally tossing them in a trash can, it shouldn't prevent me from going to college news. A teen who, threw away their brand new baby child being born. She was in the hospital already, and she went to the toilet and she gave birth and she threw it away in the trash and, being charged with the murders. But you know what she thinks? She thinks she should be allowed to go to college because college is good for the learning. Maybe it will help her learning that, throwing away, living babies in the trash, not a good thing to do. Maybe that will help her in that education. And she would like to make sure that she goes to the colleges. So let's learn a little bit more about why she'd like to go to the college and why some people seem to have a problem with her going to the colleges. Let's learn a little bit more about this. Several thousand people have signed an online petition that aims to ban the New Mexico teenager from attending university because she's accused of the murder. She gave birth to a baby boy in a hospital bathroom. She's already in the hospital, mind you. She's literally inside the hospital, a place which, can help to attend to medical emergencies and help with, the childbirth. But she's like, I'll just do it in the hospital bathroom by myself and then throw away the child in the trash. Nobody will notice. They noticed. Alexi Tervillo, who is 19, is charged with murder in the first degree, child abuse, and tampering with evidence over the birth of her son, which was found in the trash dead by the general hospital staff. Yeah, the janitor couldn't help noticing there seemed to be a fetus inside the trash can. That's not where they're supposed to be. Last week, the judge amended a pre-trial order in the case on bail, which allows the defendant to physically attend classes at New Mexico State. So the judge over here looks at this situation, I don't see why a little bit of child murder should in any way prevent this girl from attending the classes in person in New Mexico. She should be allowed to go to campus, and she should be allowed to walk the campus corridors and go to classes, and she should be allowed to have fun and frivolity with all of her new class friends. I can't see any problem with this, says the judge in New Mexico. Apparently, the bail conditions get more and more generous with every passing moment. An early order by a different judge had used domestic violence frameworks to craft no-contact orders between the woman and the deceased child's father, who attends the same school. So, they're just going to be classmates together, walking on campus together, but please don't talk to each other. The earlier order could have resulted in an inadvertent bail violation, her attorney successfully argued. So earlier it was like, how about stay 500 feet away from the father of the child? And the defense lawyers over here like, well, hey, Your Honor, that's too harsh. Because if she has to stay 500 feet away, she won't be able to attend the classes in person at the same university the father is also attending at the same time. Maybe they'll pass each other in the hallway. Maybe they'll pass each other on the campus. That's not fair. She should be allowed to attend the campus that the father's attending. And the judge is like, yep, that sounds fine. So stay 500 feet away, except if it's on college property. What happens on college property stays on college property, apparently, in New Mexico. A Change.org petition, however, not so happy with the judge's ruling. There seems to be some people who think, this order from the judge, perhaps not really a good thing. So there's a bunch of people who think, maybe the woman should be banned and also potentially kicked out of school. Maybe the murderer should not be allowed to be on the school. Fashioning itself as the voice of concerned citizens in New Mexico, the petition asks authority and educational institutions to take immediate action to prevent the woman from pursuing a career in nursing or social work or any field of education, because apparently one of the fields that this woman is particularly interested in studying is nursing. Or maybe the social work. Well, I suppose she does have a unique perspective when it comes to social work issues. So maybe she is a particularly interesting voice. But some people think maybe the nursing and social work not suitable for the 19-year-old child murderer. Maybe not the best profession for her. The petition started on August 24th, has amassed 2,800 signatures a day and has about 14,000 signatures at the moment. The girl, however, is not currently attending classes. Defense attorney over here doing yeoman's work says the court allowed her to go to college, which she has the right to do. Some days it's difficult to be a defense attorney, people. Some days you have to get up there and you have to try to say with a straight face, yep, my client should totally be allowed to attend the college. Yep, because I'm, of course, a zealous advocate for my client's interest, and my client would like to attend the college. So, of course, my client should be allowed to attend the college. That would be a good thing for them to do, I say, as the zealous advocate for the child murderer. Some days it's difficult to be a defense attorney, people. The defense attorney continues by saying she's not on campus, she's currently taking classes via Zoom because of this case, and she doesn't want to create any controversies. Well, might be a little bit late for that, but whatever. The defense alleges the child was stillborn, which, all right. And also the girl is suing the hospital, which is just like the ultimate chutzpah, right? How about I sue the hospital for wrongful death, which is the child stillborn or not, by the way, at this point, but okay. I'd like to sue the hospital for wrongful death on negligence. Okay, the lawsuit cites morphine that was administered to the girl after staff knew she was pregnant as the baby's cause of death. Wow. I mean, they say the best defense is a good offense. And she's like, I'm not guilty of the child murder. You're guilty of the child murder. I'm going to sue the hospital. Fun times and exciting. Prosecutors in the case alleged the boy was murdered, citing a medical examiner's report that classified the death as homicide based on presence of air in his lungs. The medical examiner over here thinks, I can't help noticing that the lungs seem to have inflated, which seems to suggest that the boy took a breath, which seems to somewhat undercut the idea of the stillborn. So the medical examiner less thrilled with the stillborn theory. The petitioners, for their part, argue the state's allegations alone are enough that the woman should not be granted access to professions of the entry or Mexico State University. Defense attorney, continuing to prove that defense attorney sometimes is a really difficult job, says, I don't pay much attention to social media. I find it pretty asinine and a way for people to spew hatred and malcontent. But when it comes to a danger to my client, I pay attention. So I've learned a little bit about the petition. Wow. I mean, this defense attorney is best defense attorney because they will help their client no matter what, man. They are here for their client and they will make sure that they are in your corner no matter what. Hell or high water, baby. My client wants to attend classes. They're out on bail. I see no problem with that. Works for me. Yeah. There has been a reaction of disdain for the petition by the defense attorney, but caution about what the general tenor of the protest could mean for his clients. The defense attorney, continuing to do yeoman's work, says, my fear is that when we get to jury selection, I may have some potential jurors who think like these closed-minded people. It's not a question of whether I think my client is innocent. It's a question of whether I can get a fair trial. There might be some closed-minded people out there who think that, throwing away even your stillborn baby, just throwing it away in the trash without a care in the world may be somewhat representative of poor character. So even if your client is telling the truth, which, the medical examiner somewhat disputes with, the evidence of breath inside the lungs, but even if your client was telling the truth, throwing away the stillborn baby just, in the garbage of the bathroom, well, there might be some closed-minded people out there who think that speaks somewhat poorly of her character. The petition, according to the defense lawyer, more or less convicts the defendant, saying that the woman has been someone who's been involved in such a heinous crime. Involved is one way to put it, and argues that allowing her to pursue an education is morally wrong. Well, I don't necessarily object to her pursuing an education. I would just prefer that it be done behind bars. So if she wants to do some correspondence school, like the rest of the prisoners, go nuts. Defense attorney, continuing to speak for his client, says, These people just do not know the facts. And for some of these people, knowing the facts wouldn't assist them that much because their hatred and their closed-mindedness may not afford them the opportunity to learn. Okay. Apparently believing that disposing, newborn children, whether stillborn or otherwise, away in the trash, apparently that's a closed-minded, bigoted view. Okie dokie. You would think that if they're at a college or university, they're there to operate with an open mind and study and evaluate before reaching certain conclusions and making such malicious statements. Defense attorney over here thinks that, people should have an open mind. Have you reconsidered your position on the disposing of the stillborn child? Have you reconsidered your position on the child murder? Maybe it's not so bad. I mean, she's just 19. She's just, in a hospital, and she just gave birth, and, she just put it in the trash as one does. It's a perfectly normal thing to do. A perfectly normal, reasonable person. You're a reasonable person, aren't you? The reasonably prudent person. This is something a reasonably prudent person would do, right? Right? Yeah. The petitioners, for their part, apparently expressing their supposed closed-mindedness, have suggested 3 courses of action. First, the organizer of the petition would like the university, licensing boards, and relevant authorities to reconsider the admission to the university. The second ask is for stricter background checks and screening process to ensure the safety of the vulnerable. The third request is that administrators collaborate with local law enforcement agencies to ensure that individuals charged with violent crimes against children are not permitted to careers. Defense attorney over here suggests the petition was indicative of broader trends and can forward the impetus for violence in the future. Defense attorney saying, quote, sadly, some of these people react out of bias and ignorance. With all possible respect, defense attorney, I do have to admit to a little bit of bias in my heart. I do have a bit of bias against the child murderers, and even in the most favorable interpretation of facts, I'm somewhat opposed to the woman giving a stillborn birth and just be like, the trash can is perfectly fine. So if that's bias, my friend, then call me biased, I guess. I could see how this could get dangerous in a hurry, with people going out and doing things so blatantly as without giving that any thought. You're worried that people might go out and do things blatantly without giving it thought. Really? Your concern as the defense attorney is that maybe people might go out and do things blatantly without giving it any thought. Defense attorney, who are we talking about at this point? Are we talking about the public at large or your own client who is accused of doing exactly that? Horrible things can result. It sure can. This mob mentality is extremely dangerous, and far too often in this country, in this day and age, what happens when people react like they are here? Defense attorney thinks that maybe your bigoted view that disposing the child in the trash can is wrong needs further consideration. There's very little I can say or do, defense attorney said. My job is to protect my client, ultimately try this case, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, good for you, my friend. Good for you. You are supposed to protect your client. You are supposed to protect your client, but your client, unfortunately, has somewhat questionable character. Even under the most favorable interpretation of the story, perhaps not thinking in a way that a reasonably prudent person might think. But who am I to say? Maybe the reasonably prudent person gives birth to the stillborn child and thinks to themselves, the hospital bathroom trash is perfectly fine. That's something a reasonably prudent person would do. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let's wrap this up. Thus, that brings us to the end of the story about the 19-year-old woman who is accused of disposing of her brand new born baby in the hospital trash with the murder. She says, I didn't do the murder. She also says, I'd like to attend classes. At the same university, the baby's father is also attending at the same time, notwithstanding a no contact order. And the judge is like, yeah, that sounds fine to me. That no contact order, we need a little red pen action. Okay, stay away 500 feet except on college campus. That's totally cool. What is your problem? And defense attorney over here doing absolutely yeoman's work as a defense attorney says, all of our views that says that this is a problem or is bad is just bigotry and ignorance. And we are not being sufficiently open-minded, and we need to reconsider our stance on the issue of the disposing of the baby in the trash, I guess. So, yeah. So that case is ongoing, at least for the moment, brings us to the end of discussion of this story.